Welcome to the We Fucking Love Startups podcast. I'm your host, Troy Hammond, and on today's episode, we're chatting with Matthew Hayter. Matthew is the CEO and co-founder of Projectworks, which is a SaaS platform headquartered in Wellington, going global. And so we chat about really interesting stuff in terms of how he's gone global, the networks that he's made with CEOs in the States and in New Zealand, his journey from coming out of a services company to create a product that's suited for the professional services industry. And so I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for everyone that's subscribing. Please jump on and subscribe more. If you haven't already by now, jump on right now and subscribe, and then come back and watch this podcast because it's a really good one. Enjoy.
Kia ora. Thanks for tuning into the We Fucking Love Startups podcast, brought to you by Talent Army.
Like a big part of our brand is around our customer success side, right? So like if you look at any of our reviews and things, it's all about, like the amazing level of support and like consulting and everything we got. So as we move to this model now of having to support partners more, like obviously our customer success team are protective of that brand, and as they should be, because like a lot of what they do is part of our value prop. But as we've started this conversation with partners, like it's really clear to us that they are like an incredibly smart group of people that can even add more like than what our team can. Like they often come from like finance backgrounds, and they're doing more. Like our team do a lot of consulting around how to configure and how you should use the product and like how other companies are using it. But like a lot of these partners, like they're coming in and talking about like, okay, well, like you're setting up your billable rates, like why are your rates that, you come from a services background, and like, it's like a lot of time professional services is like, oh, that's just kind of like the rates that people charge. It's like, okay, well, how does that actually impact like all these other levers? So by bringing that information into our team, like I think they've seen it's like, oh, actually, this is not like a challenge to our value prop. This is going to like level us up even more. And then on the product team side, we run a pretty good process in terms of like our quarterly like objectives and our backlog and everything. So we're going to have to reprioritize some stuff to close a few gaps, and the team's been really responsive to that, like having to pivot on the strategy, I guess. So it's been fantastic response internally, and then sales and marketing team obviously are just like, holy fuck, like this doesn't happen.
Spotlight's on, let's go.
Yeah, totally. And it's like that. It's like, you've been passed the ball, like don't fuck it up now. So it's great.
I think I'm a big believer in any time there's a crazy bad thing that happens, there's lots of good things that come out of it. And so it's great. It's bad, like Xero lays off a bunch of people, sunsets a bunch of products, but that's always good for the ecosystem somewhere, because that talent is going to be spread across the country now. The customer base that was going to that is spread out around the country now, and so there's always really good positives that come from it, and I love hearing about these stories. Yeah,
there really are, and like Xero's laid off and are laying off a lot of people, but it sounds like they are really trying to do their best to look after them. Like we've got a few candidates in at the moment who are impacted by that, and it sounds like they're really trying to do their best by them. And even people who I've been talking to have said like, I actually think like it despite my role being impacted, I actually think it is the best thing for the company. Like it's not, and this is just maybe a couple of people's opinion, but it doesn't seem like there's this pure like overarching resentment to what's happened. It's like, okay, well, that's actually probably like needed to do a bit of attrition to grow.
It's going to be interesting watching the Xero era now under the American sort of leadership team now. It is. It's also interesting to me how it's going to play out in the American markets there. Like having a CEO now, she's a pretty credible, amazing CEO by her background, and so curious to see.
It will be interesting to see. I mean, Xero have been making roads into the US for a while and trying that. So this is clearly like a big line in the sand. American, like we're really going in now after maybe, and don't get me wrong, I know how hard it is to try and get into the US because that's what we've been doing and trying to do as well. So it seems like it's a real like, okay, this is a real clear direction of where we're going. So, so good on them. Yeah.
You've been part of a CEO networking group over in the US. That's right.
Yeah.
How much do you think that's helped you with, your growth into the US?
I think it's helped a lot. Just like both being in part of that group and spending time in the US. So I try and spend a bit of time up there. So I was up there for a month at the end of last year. Just like Kiwis who don't do that, just don't understand the size of the market and also the attitude like towards business. So like being as part of this group and seeing like what people are thinking every day, like it's very action orientated. There's like less kind of pontificating. It's like if you need something, it's like, oh, there's a guy for that. Like just go and get that guy and just like do it. It's not like, oh, we need to like think about this and like maybe like, I could do this. Like, no, this is like the best company that does that. This is what they do. Here's the number. Go and call them and just do that and move on. And also like their attitude, I think, and this is anecdotal and definitely not true of all Kiwi companies, but like there's this kind of mentality, maybe a little bit, and this is changing, but where it's like, for me to win, other people have to lose. Like we're all in like competition and like there's a bit of pie and like we're all fighting for the pie. But in the US, it's all about like making the pie bigger and like everybody's like, even companies in there, I can't talk to too much detail because you're under like
of course.
NDA have been in there, but companies in there that compete, that are rooting for each other, right? And it's just like, it's cool. Like it feels like business is more like of a sport and it's like, we're going to go and like fucking compete hard on the field, but we have a beer at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that. Like we compete against other recruiters. I set up an HR company, or people in experience, I should say. Kimberly will kill me for saying HR company the other day. But in the same day, I'm like commenting on other people's posts and helping them and amplify their posts because it's like it's the same thing, right? You can we can all try and build great businesses, but at the end of the day, you don't have to be an asshole about it.
Yeah. I'm part of a CEO group, a New Zealand-based one is too, which has been really good. So
what are the differences?
The size for one. So the US-based one is, I think there's like 400 people in there or so, and they're going to cap it at 700.
Yeah.
The New Zealand-based one, there's maybe like 30 of us.
Yeah.
And the US-based one is like, I'm definitely like small fry in there. Like these are like well-known names and stuff in there. But the New Zealand-based one it's more like, it's more local and like we're catching up in person and there are people like, there's quite good diversity of like not only person but diversity of idea in there. So I get really good exposure like in the New Zealand-based one to just other stuff that's going on because like building a SaaS company, there's like a manual on how to build a SaaS company, right?
Yeah.
Like, here's like all your metrics, here's what to do, like here's the model, like there's a way to do everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can get quite like, insular and like it can prevent you being like creative or thinking about how to do things in a new way. So I really like that exposure to other ideas. Whereas the US one is probably more like, okay, here's the people doing the specific stuff I need like help on. At this point. So
do you feel because of your experience in the US one that you're able to be a bigger fish in the New Zealand one? Not to boost your ego or anything. I guess my question is around, do you think your experience and ability to help and mentor people has been amplified because of your group in the States?
Yeah, I think like within the group in New Zealand, like people all have some pretty key strengths that they bring and certainly some strengths that I don't have. And one of the things I've been able to bring is some of that like mindset to it is one of the things I contribute for sure. Like it's definitely helped my understanding on a lot of things and I share those things with the group. Yeah. I'd say so.
Because this is your first CEO startup role, right? Traditionally, if we go back, you're a boy from Gisborne who found his way into a services business.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, basically ended up in the CEO role because neither of my business partners were going to do it. But I've been doing it for a while now, so I haven't been fired by the board yet. So that's good. But no, always been into tech for as long as I can remember, but didn't necessarily know where I'd kind of end up. I've kind of always skirted that line of business and technology, really. Yeah.
Did you strategically make any moves in your career, or has it just been let the chips fly, let the chips drop where they are?
That's a good question. I guess the answer is probably yes. So, like you say, I grew up in Gisborne, like went to school there, kind of didn't really, like I wouldn't say I was like a bad kid at school, but like I just mucked around at school. Like I wasn't like engaged really. The only thing I was really engaged in at school was like the computing class stuff, largely and thanks to having just an amazing computer teacher there and a couple of mates who were doing the same thing. And then I was like, should go to uni. So hadn't done seventh form or anything, got the dean at school to write a letter to be like, yeah, Matt, like if he does something to do with computers, we'll be fine at uni. So got in, did a commerce degree though, did info and Elcom, kind of thinking like, yeah, I maybe want to go down more the business route. But then like being at uni and learning about that, I was like, oh, fuck, like ideas are a dime a dozen. Like you need to be able to actually build stuff. Like there's such a low barrier to like being able to build a business these days, but one barrier is being able to actually do the coding. Like everything else can kind of be dealt with. So, I'd always dabbled like in a little bit of code stuff since I was, young. But then made a concerted effort to get a job as like a graduate developer to properly learn those skills, with the idea being that I would one day want to build my own product or company or something like that. Yeah. So
you dropped out of uni?
No, I did. I finished uni.
It? Yeah.
So I got my degree from Vic. Yeah, I've got a commerce degree there. But yeah.
Found yourself in Wellington still?
Yeah. So yeah, like Wellington, right? It was kind of the natural place to come down from Gizzy, the next little jump. Yeah. Came down, got a job as a developer, and then was like, okay, I've kind of did that for a few years, kind of honed in that skill, and was just naturally, I think, more like on the management side still. So kind of moved more into the team lead and then into the solution architecture side, because I was always kind of thinking like, okay, how are we going to grow this thing bigger? How are we going to grow this thing bigger? And like what I ended up doing in my developer role at Provoke, which is where I was running essentially one of the big accounts there. And we built a product for ANZ Bank, and we had like continued to build that out. So I'd kind of like, while I was doing it out of a services company, like I'd been leading product development, but under that umbrella. So I'd kind of had a bit of an idea, obviously not around like how any of the financial side worked, but kind of an idea on how to build something big. Yeah. And then I think in 2016, my business partner, Julian, and I were like, we've got the apprenticeship now, we need to go and start a startup.
So you didn't know what you wanted to build. You were just like, we're going to start a startup.
That's right. So we started those combos, and we actually started, we're still in the domain actually, started building a product called Main Street. Main Street, which was kind of like what is now like Shopify / eBay stores. It was basically like, okay, it was a website builder for an e-commerce site, but then there was also like a big hub behind it where everybody's products were also listed. So it was like the Main Street. Like it was these boutique stores, but then the problem with that is it's like no one goes to the stores. So it's like, let's use like a single database of all the productization so we can have like a storefront, but people can promote their stores individually. We started doing that, and then it's like, fuck, that's a big product to build from scratch with two guys at night and weekends. So you did this. So this was just moonlighting around your jobs, right? Like, this was just like planned, like massive project. Yeah, totally right. So in hindsight, it was never gonna like go anywhere without proper capitalization, but it kind of gave us a bit of a taste. But then we got on well with the founders at Provoke, and one of them is now a business partner. He's a co-founder of Projectworks. So, we built this product up internally, which was called Project Control at the time, to run Provoke. And so, after work beers, we're talking to them. It's like, hey, we kind of want to go and play startups. And it's like, oh, well, we've actually already got this product that's really good and everybody wants. So we convinced the Provoke board to spin out a new company called Projectworks, and give us half the equity.
Is this before the acquisition for Provoke?
This was 2016, yeah. So the acquisition was 2019. So, we started that, and then it was still kind of nights and weekends, but like Doug, who's our now COO, was one of the directors at Provoke as well. So he's like, just go and spend some time on that. And he'd like move the money around to kind of like make our costs break even. Because the other part too was like, we were still pretty integral to like their biggest customer at the time, ANZ. So we didn't want to like, we were friends with them. We didn't want to just drop that. But also like that was kind of part of our bargaining chip to get like the equity in the spin out. So it was like, we'll stay and help you guys do that, and you guys look after us here. And so it kind of worked out for everyone.
Yeah, awesome.
But like it was still largely nights and weekends and wasn't really going to go like anywhere at the pace it needed to build a SaaS company. So
were you married then at this stage?
No, I'm not married yet. I might as well be. I get married in 4 weeks.
Oh, that's right. You've had a few failed attempts.
Yeah, we were meant to be married in 2020. Yeah.
Oh, shit. I shouldn't laugh. But
don't worry, mate. I'm laughing. I'm like, just as long as we get on that plane. Yeah. But so 2019, the acquisition happened.
Yeah.
Which was probably the best thing that could have happened for us, because it meant we were forced to be properly capitalized and actually start treating it like a real business. And that's when we actually started. So what does that look like? Talk me through that. Like you Provoke, because they got acquired by some South African company from memory, isn't it? Or an American company.
Company,
San Diego-based private equity firm. So they Bridgewest came and brought Provoke. So Bridgewest then ended up acquiring Provoke's share and us by proxy. So that was a crazy time, actually. That was basically myself and Doug, who was working on it with us, even though he was still largely doing Provoke stuff at the time. It was like, okay, so this acquisition's happened. These guys own you. Like Masood, Masood and Massey are the two that own Bridgewest. So it's a private equity firm, but it's kind of like a family office, because like most of the assets in the company were originally made from a big exit that they did. So they're very hands-on in a lot of the stuff they do. So it's like Masood's coming down to New Zealand, like Doug and Matt, you got to get on a plane and basically go and like tell them what you guys do to see like, are they going to shut you down or we don't know what's going to happen. Basically go and talk to Masood and figure it out. So that was like an MBA in a weekend. Like Masood's an incredibly smart, sharp guy. Got on the plane, went through, and like Doug and I had like a bit of a budget together on what we wanted to do. And then he's like, okay, go and like redo that, but make the growth like 10 times more. And then it's like, it's still not enough. It's like, I need to see a plan to build $100 million company, or like, this isn't worth it. We're like, fuck. So it's like iterating, like there all weekend working. Finally got to like a model that Doug and I were like, there's like, I don't know if we can do this, like even with money. And then, he gave us $1 million of runway at a valuation that weekend. So like our whole first funding round happened in the space of a couple of weeks. So,
Jesus.
So it was a really backwards way to do it. So we got like private equity backing when we were doing like 50,000 ARR, which has been like a blessing and a curse.
Had you even committed to working full-time on it at that stage yet?
No, the company had no employees then. No, we still worked for Provoke. Yeah. So that was it. It was like, okay, well, we moved across to work full-time for the company. Couple of the, one of the other, so the three founders plus another one of the Provoke staff came across. So we started with the four of us. And then got hiring and got building and, started having targets and monthly meetings with the private equity financial committee around why we weren't like bringing in any money.
I don't know if that's positive or negative, having a PE firm come in at that stage, I mean, definitely helps you to run it like a proper business from day one. That's and right. To be more aggressive about opportunity growth. And
totally, man. Like, it brought in like a lot of rigor, which was great. Like when we went and did our raise last year, and we had our model, which is now very sophisticated, And, we were doing like...
You didn't do it in a weekend again?
No, we didn't do that one in a weekend. No. But, we were doing like in the low millions ARR, and like we were talking to VCs, and they're like, oh, this is what we get from like a 20 to 30 million revenue company. Like you guys have got the books in order. So we're like, okay, well, that's good. So that forced us to do that. But at the same time, like, the private equity model was quite different to the VC model.
Yeah.
It's less like... It's kind of weird because it was like on paper, it's like private equity model, but we also still have like this personal relationship with the founder. So it's like, it's kind of like, we're friendly, and it's like, okay, you guys are building something, and we're kind of, we're going to give you some leniency because, you're building and there's unknowns. But then it's like, you'd go and talk to the like financial review committee, and it's like, we need to like show a return here. So it all worked out all right in the end. But it was an unorthodox way to go about it. That's for sure.
I don't think I've ever heard any startup that hasn't had some sort of unorthodox approach at some stage. Yeah. So Projectworks, so before we go any further, what is Projectworks?
Yeah, good question. So we're basically a platform for the professional services industry, right? So if you think about like software consultancies, management consultancies, engineering, architecture, people that essentially sell time, whether it's like T&M or fixed price, this whole kind of consulting area. Usually if you look at their software ecosystem, there's like a CRM at one end, and there's an accounting system at the other, and there's a whole bunch of just shit in the middle, which is usually like some spreadsheets and Trello boards, and like maybe like a time tracking app, and maybe like a resource tool, but there's not really like a household name that's dominated that space, right? There's all this kind of like broad task management apps and like different bits. So what we are is we're kind of like the all-in-one between there. So if you think about like timesheets, resource booking, revenue forecasting, invoicing, expenses, with a really strong focus on like what professional services firms care about, making margin and good utilization, right? Am I making money, and am my people doing stuff? That's really all they care about. Whereas a lot of the other products like in the space are really more like project management oriented, like is my project going well or on track? It doesn't really tell you if your business is healthy. Like you can have a really healthy project and not have a healthy business. So our product is like flipped on its head and an all-in-one that's really easy to use, and integrated, plays nicely with the ecosystem. So
I think I've heard every professional code services company I've ever worked with say that they're going to build that at some stage, right? How did you build it, and how did it be successful? Yeah,
probably a bit of luck, and a bit of a bit of dumb luck. Like the product had been built like internally and had been, it was like a learning ground for grads, and like so we already had like something to start with that was pretty far along. Like development on it goes back to like 2010. So the product had been chipped away and was reasonably mature. And I think like, if you look at the broader professional services industry, like we're a software company as well. So we've had software chops. We talked to some like engineering firms who are trying to do the same thing, and they've got like one guy like Barry, like it's his job to like maintain the product. It's like, what if he leaves? So anyway, I digress. But so we got that, and then like part of that pitch or that weekend we had with Masood. So Masood like made his early money in like professional services, and he got the need as well. So he deeply understood like professional services was his jam, and he was like, fuck, I wish I had that product when like I was running my firm. So like he was sold. So it was lucky like that the guy who'd acquired us and already owned it like deeply felt the pain we were solving. So we got the investment for it, which gave us the runway to be able to build it to a point. Yeah. And then, just perseverance.
Again, every professional services company or every dev agency that I know is debating whether they should be a services company or a product, because they've always got that one little product in there where they're like, we should take this to market, like we should. So how do you think that coming from a services background has helped you, in building a SaaS product and a SaaS company?
I mean, for us, the main way it's helped has been because our product is for services. Probably not that much in a lot of other ways, though. Like, it's a very different way of thinking, right? And probably in some ways that has held us back a little bit. But a lot of other services companies, it held us back in the early days, I'd say. Like when we were...
Why did it hold you back?
Well, when we were doing it, like that pre-acquisition time, and it wasn't properly capitalized, and like you're just trying to do it like in some spare time and like scraping together here and there, like you really need to have like runway and autonomy, I think, to do it, like to do a full product. But in saying that though, like we're seeing a lot of our companies start to productize IP into various, levels of that spectrum. You don't have to go and build like a full product straight away to move away from like time and materials billing, right? You can move to like other models to like get you there by like packaging IP and like doing more like value-based pricing, like rather than like just doing T&M stuff, like selling workshop as a package and making like a higher margin on that. And you can kind of start moving towards productization and getting little bits going. One of the things that has definitely been detrimental to us in the short term, but I think will pay off in the long term, was the sheer breadth of our product. Made it very hard because we were kind of everything to a lot of people, and we had a lot of breadth that was built specifically for Provoke. And then everybody wanted a little bit different. Like, whereas if we had have just started like as a timesheeting tool or a resourcing tool, it would have been easier. But hindsight's 2020. Like the other part of that is that we have won because we are an all-in-one. So it's been like hard slog for a lot of years. But now that we've come through and we have the solid breadth of product, it's like that's paid off. But it was a higher barrier to entry that we kind of managed to get through.
How do you? Because like I think most people listening to this, right, are thinking about going into a startup or working in a startup or founded a startup. How do you get through those years where it's just hard fucking slog, right?
Well, some good motivation, I guess, has been...
Playing your wedding 5 times.
I think it's like having some real external pressure. Like a lot of people now are invested like financially that are riding on it. Like, stopping now is not an option because I'm going to let a lot of people down. Like, so on those hard days, it's like, that's, you're on the train, man. Like you can't stop. So, it's like, and
it's funny because I listening to you answer this question and my mind's thinking, man, I'm answering this exactly the same. I'm almost like, how do you not fucking stop, right? You're in it now. You don't even have that conversation with yourself. You just keep going.
I think, and like Elon Musk says it well, like love him or hate him. He's probably more hated at the moment, but I
love him. I think he's great.
Okay, good. Yeah. But I'm not going to do the exact phrasing justice, but it's just something along the lines of like, if you need like motivation or any kind externally, like don't start a startup. If you need like words, it's just like don't do it. So it's like pretty much like
I am I love Elon. I love him or hate him. People have varied opinions on him. I love him because he's authentically himself. He's driven, he's passionate, he's laser focused on what he's trying to achieve, and so and we all have shit that we do right and wrong, right? Like you can't. If my life was on the same platform that Elon's is on, I'd probably be way worse.
Totally right. And there's like some people as well, like find it easier to separate the art from the artist as well. Like, he says some dumb shit that I don't agree with, absolutely. And he's a dick, but like he's done some like pretty amazing stuff. And I think like some really well-intentioned stuff, like what he's doing, right? Like he's one of the few people that's really trying to push like humanity forward, like, and sacking up and doing it.
And so I have 5 companies that I'm running at the moment, and I'm burning out at all times, right? And mine are tiny little companies in New Zealand.
Exactly.
This guy's fucking across
honestly.
everything, right? And so yeah, like I respect,
Yeah.
you know, I respect that, but
And you got to remember that size, right? Yeah, like I've got a newspaper printing from like the day of the moon landing behind my desk. And like when I feel like, things are getting bigger, out of control, I'm like, 400,000 people worked on that project,
Yeah.
came together with a fixed scope, and get to the moon, a fixed timeline by the end of the decade with
Yeah.
400,000 people. It's like they put a fucking man on the moon with 400,000 people. Like you can like deal with these few
in
people.
1960s, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like whatever you're dealing with is not that big.
For me, I kind of love the moments now when it's really fucking challenging and really fucking hard. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I'm only able to become a better version of myself or a better leader or a better employee when I'm able to get through that dark moment and come out the other side. Because I think largely when we, as people, as humans, right, when we go through periods of change, so when things are moderately hard, like it's annoying, you're working into Gen, you probably want to leave and do a startup, but it's kind of great, it's kind of good, like it doesn't, there's no reason to fucking leave, right? So you and you're in a bit of a slump for 5 years because you're like, oh, fuck, I probably should be doing something. I feel like there's something more and destined to me, but things are okay here. My boss isn't so bad and the company's good, and I'm just frustrated. But if your boss was an asshole, like if Mace was a fucking absolute dick, right? You'd probably be more in that space where you'd be forced to make a decision to leave, right? And so I kind of love getting into those positions where I feel really fucking terrible and I feel like something needs to happen because it just creates diamonds, like it really does.
It hardens you, right? It makes you, whatever little varying size bits of adversity, it's like it makes you grateful. Like I always think like when I've got something I don't want to do, it's like, oh, I have to do this. It's like, no, I get to do this. Like no one has put me here. Like I get to do this. I'm healthy and I'm, like this is a great privilege to be in this position. So get on with it.
And how have you found going from like services, leading teams, technical teams to like leading whole functions now?
Yeah, it's I've been incredibly lucky that my leadership team is so strong. They're all like better than me at like their function. So like my direct leadership team, like we've got an amazing head of product. She's ex-Atlassian, she did 5 years up there and she's just like, and before she came on, I was in there like doing the product design stuff and I can kind of do that, but then she's come in and taken that. So it's like, that's great. It's just like, that's in good hands. And then Zabe, our customer success manager who came over from Provoke with us, he just like customers love him. If you look at our reviews on any of the platforms, like most of them name him personally. It's it's like that's handled right. And then my business partner Jules is like a great engineer, and like we worked together like as the engineering team for a long time before. So there was that that trust. And then Doug, my COO, I'd worked with for a long time too. So I've been really like again like a lot of luck, man. Like it's tricky because I like to get into the detail on like a lot of things. So having to just sort of trust people to do the right thing is difficult. But again, like if you've got the right people and like that's been okay. Like if I think like if any of those people had not been particularly good, it would be a lot harder. And then I spend a lot of my time now more on the sales side, and we brought in a few years ago now my head of sales, Madeline, who's based up in the US, and like she's just completely like smashed that whole sales and marketing function too, right? So I spend a lot of time there now, but even then, like I'm involved more there. Like I've still, I feel like it's in safe hands a lot. But I still get in and probably like annoy people by getting into too much detail by going in and like checking specific bits of work and like meddling. But
you're not designing or writing code, are you? I hope.
I don't get to write too much code. In fact, I got a new laptop in like August, and I didn't install Visual Studio on that. So I
Is
haven't really
that the
touched
first
any
time?
code. Yeah. So now I've got basically an email machine.
Yeah. Welcome to my world, mate. Yeah.
So that was the line. I still jump in and do like a little bit of database stuff from time to time, but yeah.
So you mentioned Madeline in the US, right? What are the advantages to hiring is she American?
Yep.
What are the advantages? I was having a conversation with a client this morning and they were talking about, all right, look, we're looking to hire someone that can help us sell globally. And I said, globally or North America? And he was like, North America. And I was like, okay, well, do you want to put the person here or do you want to put the person in North America? And he was like, oh, no, I want them here selling into North America. And I was like, well, I'd encourage you to look at both, right? Look at hiring someone locally, an American selling into Americans, and someone here as well. And so more so out of my curiosity after this conversation, what do you think are the advantages of hiring someone locally there?
Well, a lot of the time America see the world as America, right? So like if you're not there, you're like granted, New Zealand's standing on the world stage has really improved, or we're a lot more visible for largely the right reasons over the last few years. So it's gotten easier, I think, but it's still like having a presence there. Like you don't even really get like a seat at the table if you don't have a presence on the ground. So that's a big advantage as well. A better understanding of the customer too, that you just don't get from out here, just around how people do business. Like Americans are incredibly friendly, but like when it comes to buying software and stuff, it's a really transactional kind of process. Like in New Zealand, like everyone just buys like from their mates, right? And it's like, you know, all the old boys club selling each other the same shit. But there it's like, okay, you've got the product I need, okay, I'll buy it. Like that's the right thing. So understanding that. And then in Madeline's case too, she'd come like out of a company that had already done an exit. So she used to work for a company called PayScale that did an exit just before she joined us. So she came off the back of that exit. So she'd kind of been like at that mass global scale SaaS company to exit, which like, you know, we have some of those in New Zealand obviously, but like just not at the same volume. So, you know, harder to get that resource here with the experience you need. Because it's really important to get like the right experience for you. Like if you're a company doing like a couple of million ARR and your next goal is to get to say 15 or 20 million ARR, and you bring in someone that's maybe like taking a company from 100 to 200 million ARR, like it's just such a different skill set. So you need to get like the person who's been like just at the like top end of where you're trying to go.
They know the playbook, right? They know they've been there, they've walked in the shoes, and so they can come back and teach you the things that they fucked up, you know.
For sure, right? So Madeline's run, like by the time she left PayScale, you know, she was running the size of the sales function that we're building towards that she'd built there. So, So then how do you, because that weekend that you did all your financial modeling, right, to get to $100 million, how do you get there now? Yeah, a lot of sales.
Yeah. How do you do in this market? Like everything's changed, right? Is it harder to get sales in this market, or is it easier, or is it the same?
Well, with the news from last week, if we can ride this for a while, it's you know, we've got that. That aside, though, we're lucky in a lot of ways that we have some like reasonable diversification of our customer base. So, you know, our customers range from like sort of 10 people to 200 people. They're like cross industry to some degree, like architects are impacted differently to software companies, differently to like some consultancies. And then we also have, well, it's still stacked mainly to Australia, but some good geographic distribution too. Like 80% of our revenue is offshore. Like only it's less than just under 20% now in New Zealand. So we've got like a mix. So like, you know, when price sensitivity was starting to like happen in the UK, when like their economy started to sort of shit itself, like it was still sort of going okay in other markets. Like Australia's still been pretty strong. So on the whole, like people are definitely still buying. I think things have just slowed a little bit.
And I feel like it's finite too now. Like it's starting to almost like we're like a bit of a canary in the coal mine in recruitment, right? And so you can starting to feel like this is the tail end of it now, and people are starting to push forward a little bit now. Their boards are seeing a little bit more, a bit more confidence in saying, all right, let's start hiring again. And so,
yeah. And there's also too, like, a product like ours, and we're obviously not the only product that does this, but it's a product that's designed to like save you money.
Yeah.
So there's stuff for that. And also, actually, I was talking to someone this morning who gave me a great quote. He's like, there's no good or bad markets. There's just market variables, and you either have the right strategy or not to capitalize on it. So,
I like that. I like that a lot.
It's like that takes any of it. It's like, oh, it's a bad market. We're not going to hit target. It's like, no, like the variables have changed. Sure. So your strategy needs to change. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I actually I'm crazy in that I love this market, because I think if you can get through a market like this unscathed, then you come out the other side so much stronger.
For sure, right. In my analogy for that, there's a road in Gisborne where I grew up, Ormond Road, right? There used to be like 4 petrol stations along that road, and then like things got tight. They started shutting down, and like one stayed, and now that's like a fucking metropolis. Like, it's like if you can just like not die and like let all the others go, like you're gonna rise on top. It's like it's exactly the same thing.
That's my business strategy, right? Just keep riding through, and
Well, Paul Graham's got a great like I don't know if you read any of his stuff, but he's got a great thing. I think the title was like the way to succeed is like just don't die. It's like as an investor is like. If founders start working on other things or stop turning up to like investment meetings and stuff, like that's a good indicator. Like if they keep doing that, there's a good indication that they're going to keep going. And you see something like startups rarely like die mid keystroke, so keep typing.
100%. And it's like life, right? You have your highs and your lows. Eventually, you'll find that one nugget or that one thing or a company, will sunset their product, and you'll get this influx where you think partner. You go down the partner strategy, and you realize, why haven't we done this before? Or you do this, and so something gives you that next bit of endorphins to keep going, and then you go to another level that you just didn't think you could have got to beforehand, and then it might become easier, right? And so you just never know.
You unlock those step changes,
man.
And that's what this week's been like a bit for us. It's like, when you've got just like so many options, it's like you're not necessarily always sure where you're fighting, but now it's like, okay, we've got this thing to rally around. Everybody's got real clarity. It's like a real option, and I can feel like we're leveling. Yeah.
And so why did you, because I'm curious about your CEO networks, mate. Why did you decide to do that in the first place? Was that something that you decided off your own bat, or did your board encourage you to do it? Or
it was something I decided off my own bat. Yeah, so I joined the one in New Zealand first. Basically wanted to start doing some more stuff like for myself.
Yeah.
So I joined that in we'll go deep now. In late 2021.
Yeah.
So in mid 2021, my brother died. And I'd spent a lot of time like with that. So he had cancer, and I'd been spending a lot of time working with him up to that.
Yeah.
And then off the back of that, I kind of wanted to start doing some more things like getting out, meeting new people, like, being exposed to some more new like positive experiences.
Yeah.
So
Find
that's
yourself
why
again.
Yeah. So I joined like off the back. It was like, fuck, I'm going to go find like a group of new people to chat to. And yeah, it was really just a bit random like that. And I'm really glad I did it. But no, it wasn't like any direction from the board to go and like, you need to go and learn how to be a CEO. I'm sure they were thinking that, but no, they never actually.
Yeah, well, they kind of thought it too much, mate. They didn't say it, but
yeah. So that was how I got on, and then the US one was just kind of opportunity came up, so I sort of jumped on it.
Yeah, it's, the reason why I ask is because I speak to so many CEOs that don't do this, and they feel lonely and isolated, and they feel that they can't be their true selves with anyone because they constantly have to put that brave face on that everything's going to be okay even when it's not. And so, and I'm like, wait, man, get out there and find some people and get in a network group and do these things.
It's so It's one of those things that like you think going into it, it's like, it's just like another thing to do when you've already got like a million things to do. But getting out and getting some of that external perspective, like can really make big like step changes in your output, I feel. And like you say, like, you know, you run companies as well, like there's not really anyone to vent to or like just sort of like shoot the shit, because it's, you know, you've got to have that brave face on. Like you can't show any like cracks even when it's like, fuck, we're about to run out of money and like all the whatever. We're not about to run out of money, just for anyone.
I was going to say we'll add a little disclaimer down the bottom.
Okay, but you know, there's no sympathy for the top role. Yeah.
Awesome. And so, what do you think? Like, what have you learned in the American one that, in particular, that you're like, this really meant something to me as a leader?
Yeah, good question.
Was it just more around the scale and the niche, the niche, you know, that people in the States have?
I think it's the like the New Zealand number 8 wire mentality is great for a lot of things, and like I personally like building things and doing stuff, like, and you know, doing that. Obviously, I wouldn't have built a product company, but like I think just learning that's just like, fuck, if you've got a problem, someone else has probably already solved it. Go and just find them and deal with it. Like, you know, you can kind of get caught up in your own head, like with a problem, and not go and like ask for help, whether or not it's because, you know, ashamed to go and ask or like seek, you know, that. Like, I'm sure there's some situations it's that, right? But it's just like, it's often not the like default thing to do. It's like, we've got this specific problem. It's like, oh, okay, well, let's go and like talk to the person who knows how to fix that problem. Yeah. And they're very like just open about like, oh, I've got this issue, like whether it's like a personal thing or whatever. It's like, I need to go and just see that. Like a lot of like the CEOs and stuff in there, they'll have like a number of different like personal therapists for specific things, and I'm just like, that's fucking like crazy to me. And it's just like, yeah, no, I've just got to talk to my guy who like helps me with my whatever issue. Yeah,
Jeff's my psychologist, my best mate, my business advisor. He's painting my house at the moment.
For sure. So that's cool. And then even like, so going up and spending time at the SaaSta conference as well, like, you know, when we're in like trying to do like figure things out from a business perspective, and we're like, you know, something like niche on like how we do like some like niche billing thing or something. We're like, you know, thinking it's like, oh, we're the first company to ever deal with this problem. And then you go to SaaSta and there's like a fucking presentation with like hundreds of people there like about this exact thing. You're like, no, we're not like special. Like someone solved this. So I think that's part of the big thing. And then it's also just like the network of like people willing to help each other, and just the reach, right? You know, Americans love like introducing you to like people, like they've all got a guy for everything.
I know.
Or a girl.
It's like this their superpower, right? Is their connections. Like, I know the perfect person for this. Everyone has a person that they can introduce you to over in the States, or they have 3 or 4 people that they'll introduce you to, and I always found that I always thought that was the superpower here in New Zealand, that we know so many people and that you can get information quickly here in business. But I also believe that number 8 wire thing holds us back a little bit, and that there is so many opportunities in the States to meet people that have so much more exponential experience at scale that can send the elevator back down and give you a bit of nugget of information that will just help you so much more.
And back to your question earlier about like every professional services firm's trying to like build this themselves. We don't see that as much in the US.
Yeah.
Like it's the New Zealand companies, a little bit of the Australian market's the best for us, because they just think of New Zealand as a state essentially. So there's no cultural barrier, but they buy a lot more like the Americans. Like they're transactional. It's like, okay, there's the product, we'll buy it. Whereas the Kiwis, like, they all want to do like the specific like integration or weird stuff. So it's the American side there. It's great like to sell to. So if you've got the best product, they'll buy it. Yeah.
Do you think so one thing I know about your business is that you've got a good culture. The reason why I know that is because I own a very successful recruitment company, and if you have a bad culture, I know about it very quickly. If you have a good culture, I hear about it also. And so do you think that as Kiwis we focus on good culture more than the US does?
Yeah, I think culture is a really interesting concept that we could nerd out on for a lot. But I see culture as an output more than an input. So what I mean by that is it's like culture's like revenue, right? Like you get good culture by doing other things well, not by focusing on culture.
So not table tennis tables and
Like that's fine, like as well. Like I think like that's a part of it, but it's like that can be totally a valid culture and part of your culture. But like if that was just your culture, like that's like an afterthought. Like we've got a culture of like really hard work, right? Like work ethic and staying humble and like putting in the effort. And like we've all signed up to build the greatest product in our space.
Yeah.
We have an employee share plan. So like the driver for us is like, hey, we're going to work fucking hard, build the best product. Everybody's got shares and like we're all going to share in the spoils or we're all going to fail. Like we're all in. And so like having this like work ethic to like rally around is like a great driver for our culture. Like, you know, and we joke because like before the cap raise, like I was like saying, it's like, yeah, after the cap raise, we'll get like more than one bowl for the kitchen or like you can get a new chair, like we'll have money. And so it's like our culture has been like, you know, the culture is not like we all drink and whatever. It's like more we're rallied around like the same thing, which is like this hard work and like being really good at what we do. And I think if you've got like, and those things might not all be the same for the same company. For us is like, we want to build the best product in the space and we're going to work bloody hard. And like, you know, we've got a beer fridge and like our policy is just like, you can have a beer when you feel like you've earned a beer. So there are like some of these like other cultural things, but I think by having like some of these base things in place, like you can build that culture on top. And there are other layers, I guess, too, like myself and the rest of the exec are all very approachable and like, you know, I think we're generally pretty like nice and if we're not nice, we're at least fair. So
I think you hit the nail on the head for me, right? In terms of so I speak to a lot of startups, a lot of tech companies. People ask me a lot about how do I create really good culture, and I always find this question really hard to answer because there's no way you can create culture. For me, culture comes from the founders' examples in the early days. Like people follow that person, you know, if she or he or they, you know, are super driven and passionate, people will just naturally want to work around that person, right? And they sort of create that. And then you go through this process of just people start designing culture. Oh, we want a company that's like this, or we want a company that's, you know, like Y or X and Z. And so for me, the most successful companies that I've seen personally that I've worked with are the ones that have a performance culture based on hard work because of a North Star that everyone just is super ecstatic and excited to achieve. And so you don't have to create bullshit culture by, and I joke about ping pong tables and table tennis tables and pool tables and slides and shit like that, because for me it's like, you know, that's when you're creating almost an office for kids to a degree, right? That they need things in life to make them feel good about coming to their job. And so the companies that I've seen that are super successful just have this. You don't need to come to this. You're coming to this office because you fucking want to work on that, and you're excited, and every day you're thinking about that, and you buy into what everyone else is thinking as well, and you're on a mission to achieve that. And it's hard to sustain that as you get to a certain size because people don't feel as attached to that culture, right? And that's when you have to start designing and redesigning what your culture looks like. But I think the longer that you can have everyone facing towards a North Star, and your leadership team feels exactly the way you feel, the next lay down feels, and then because it just trickles down, you know, and performance culture keeps going if you get to 500 people. And so and you've got to be like, you know, I know there's a lot of talk around, you know, like doing a lot extra for employees and stuff at the moment. Like employees have had the power like for a long time, and it's like, you know, like that's good, but just, you know, if my
2-year-old, wants ice cream for breakfast every day. Yeah, he might want that, but it's not necessarily the best thing for them. Sometimes the best thing is to have a little bit of adversity and do that. That's what's going to make you not just a better employee for me, but a better business person. As you go ahead, not all of our staff are going to be at Projectworks forever, and that's totally fine. But if people can go to other places, and Projectworks has got a reputation of producing really great talent, that's a fucking huge win for me.
Yeah.
That's so satisfying, right? It's if 100%. People want to start poaching our employees or whatever because that's what we've built, it's that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and the way to do that, I think, is not by letting them, just fucking play ping pong all day or whatever, or whatever culture is in
quiet
some
fucking quitting or whatever the fuck that was, right? I had a real problem with all that bullshit because I'm shut the fuck up, quiet quitting, right? Just quit. Go and find somewhere you're fucking passionate about. Go to that thing. Sure. Go and find it. I want you to find it. I want you to be so fucking unhappy that you quit and go and find that thing, because then you're going to be super fucking happy, right? And
right?
You'll find that company that has the purpose that you share, and then you won't even know you're working. You won't even feel like you're working. And so
if people want to leave, that's fine, right? There's plenty of other people out there. There's plenty of other companies. You can't take that shit personally.
Yeah, man. I power to you. That's the way I think about culture personally, because I've seen it, and I've just seen I spend all day, every day headhunting people, right? And the ones that I call up and they're like, man, no fucking way can I leave. There's so much more to do here. I'm not even quarter through what we've got to do, right? And I'm like, I almost respect them so much that I just go, yeah, get it, man. Get it, and well, I actually do. If someone looks me in the eyes or tells me over the phone that, I've still got so much to do here, man. I'm in, I'm on the ride. I'm not even going to try and sell them, because I just feel the energy that they're giving me, that they're on the mission and there's no stopping them. And
you're playing the longer game too, right? They'll remember that when they do need to work with a recruiter down the track. It's that guy listened to me and didn't just fucking try and bust my balls and not actually listen to what I want. It's when you go into a sales deal and they're clearly not going to buy. It's just put it in the CRM to talk to them in a year or so. Trying to hammer a customer that doesn't need what you want right now is all they're going to do is just never talk to you again.
Man, I started my career I did door-to-door sales for a job when I was fucking 17, man. Nice. And I developed this ethos of that I would just get excited by when people would shut the door on my face, because they would just bring me closer to the next person that was going to say yes. And so it was just the law of averages for me, that if I speak to enough people, if I speak to this amount of people, there's 2 or 3 sales in that opportunity for me. And so if someone says no, I'm no worries, awesome, great. It's for me, it's just exciting, because I know it's going to bring me closer to a yes. So I do the same thing in everything I do in business now, whether it be recruitment. I don't want to sell someone into a job that they don't want, nor, I'm hoping to get, yeah, sweet, awesome. I'm proud that you're on a mission to do this thing with, X company. And so, and same thing in sales. If I'm selling, shut the fucking, put the phone down quickly and move on to the next one, and be really excited that, you're probably getting closer to that big opportunity. And so that's the message that I keep trying to say to people now, is a lot of people are looking for jobs, people on the market for the first time that worked at Xero or worked at other companies that have, been there for 10 years. And I'm like, man, you're gonna find something that's just gonna motivate the absolute fuck out of you, and it's gonna be great. But,
Good. I'm glad you've been hearing that about us. It's
yeah, man. Well, I haven't.
It's hard when you've got that pressure to keep it up, but we're doing what we can.
Yeah, man. It's good. I think there's a few small Wellington startups that are probably aren't going to be so small in a couple of years, and I put you guys in that pile, and I'm excited to see the future, man. But yeah, I think for me, seeing the next wave of Wellington companies is really making me happy. It's we've got the hangover of Xero, and we've got the other companies that have done it. But I think we're at the precipice where there's a few more that are really going to emerge now.
There's a really good network here, and some companies that are really starting to break through. Right, I think it's awesome too.
Yeah, man.
Because you want New Zealand on the world stage, right? We want to be exporting software. It's much better than putting fucking trees on a boat.
Or fishing or farming or, like, not that they're not great industries, but I think, like, we have such a good opportunity in New Zealand to
Our
push forward.
Time zone's so good.
Yeah.
Like for North America. And we've got a pretty good, reputation on the world stage. And we're a tech savvy country. I think, we should lean into it more.
Awesome, mate. So what does the future look like for Projectworks then, man? Like, what are you, are you growing? Are you looking for anything in particular?
Yeah, we're growing. We are hiring at the moment. So we've just run out of space. So we've just signed a new lease yesterday in our same building. So we're getting the top floor in our building. We'll have our whole own floor with a balcony. So
I've heard about this, the balcony.
So that's going to be rad. But yeah, we've got a few roles open at the moment. So looking for a reporting specialist. We're hiring in the kind of marketing and BA space as well. And we'll have a few more roles opening up as the year kind of progresses, mainly in Wellington. We've got some remote roles, but most of our workforce is based in Wellington. Like our engineering kind of and product side. But just really leaning into like all our partner networks and growing that. We've signed a strategic partnership agreement. I know it's not called a partnership agreement technically, with QuickBooks up in the US.
Sounds like an acquisition strategic partnership.
So maybe they want to buy us one day. We'll see.
How does Xero feel about QuickBooks is that?
I think it's fine, right? Like most of the big integrators integrate with both products. I think I think they know, like, if anyone's building a product in the space, we've got to play with both. They don't seem to mind. I think they know that's the game that they're in.
That's good, because this is the way it should be, right? Like, we in New Zealand, we're worried about partnering with other people and the likes, and I'm like, man, we're fucking global, right? We're going global. You can't worry about that shit. You've got to just partner with the right people and the right companies and whoever they are.
Yeah, like when we're doing when we've been doing the deal with QuickBooks, like they certainly haven't been worried about our partnership with Xero. In fact, it's probably helped, because they're like, okay, these guys can run like a successful partner program. And though I haven't had that specific conversation with Xero, like it's never been an issue. And I would be very surprised if they were worried about it. I think it's seen generally as a positive thing.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Which it should be. Yeah.
So I know you've watched a few episodes or listened to a few podcasts, so you probably know this daunting for some people, easy for some people final question. And that actually, this is the second last time I'm going to ask someone on this question. So coming after you right now, we're having Mike and Raj from the Access Granted. This is where I got the question from. So I'm going to finalise it with them, and then I'm going to change it up and ask different questions.
Okay. You get in too many rehearsed answers.
Nah, I just like to, next season I just
change it up
a bit. I'll ask them some fucking weird question that, I might even ask different questions. I don't know. But
okay.
I'll ask you for the second last time, and probably the last time that I ask someone, because Mike and Raj, we're gonna have a bit of fun with it.
No pressure.
Yeah, so it has to be fucking good.
Should have thought about it, shouldn't I?
Yeah. What makes you happy?
Yeah, that's a good question. That I should have thought about more. But, I think there are different levels of happiness, right? Like at the moment, like I love going home and like picking up my son from school and doing that like little evening routine. And then
how old's he?
So he's just under 2.
COVID baby.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly right. We were like, wedding got cancelled, so we might as well have a kid instead.
Nice.
We'll get back to the wedding. So I love doing that and spending time with my partner and doing like that as well. And then I get a lot of fulfillment as well from like building stuff. Like I'm doing a lot of work like on the house. Like been renovating since we bought the house a few years ago, and like I'm out like when I get some time like building retaining walls and stuff. So like that like at a surface level keeps me quite happy. Like I need to do that. That keeps me like kind of going, getting out there and doing something like with my hands. I think like in the broader context though, I think like building something, like working towards something and putting all your energy into something, not knowing like that it's like a sure thing, but knowing like it's all in your control. It's kind of like a sadistic kind of like happy, but like that gives me, maybe that borders more on like fulfillment than happy. But
I get it.
I think it's like that. And then also I was watching another controversial character. So I don't know if you've seen the show Clarkson's Farm.
Yeah.
So Jeremy Clarkson, right, in the off season, he's like bought a farm and he's doing this. And again, like, I'm not taking any position on Jeremy Clarkson as a character, but
I will.
There was this,
I like him.
He's pretty funny in some cases. But there's this scene, right, and he's sitting in his tractor and he's just like mowing his field, and he's like, fuck, after like all the things I've done, all the adventures I've been on, like I'm sitting here like in a tractor mowing the field, and like that is like he's happy. And I was like, that would be like, I'd love to like do that, just go and stop and relax and then just have that calm and be happy. But then I thought about that more, and it's like, you can't have that without having done the hard work first. Like, it's like, if you have a fucking hard day and then you go home and like you have a beer, and like you've earned it, right?
Yeah.
You've earned that relax. But if you like just sit on the couch all day and then you have a beer at night, it's like, did you really earn that? So I think about that happiness like at a broader scale. Like at the moment, it makes me happy knowing that I can likely do this really fulfilling thing, and I think build a product that is going to really help a lot of people. Like I get a lot of fulfillment again from that. So I think we're going to do that, and then hopefully I can get to the point where I've got like the financial stability to go and then just relax and have a beer, knowing that I've gone and put like a hard day's work and have earned it, and be able to have the stories and reminisce and stuff. So the happiness is like, probably the journey that I'm on, I think, and the hardness of it makes me happy knowing that it'll be like worth it, I think.
Man, I put the pressure on you to give me a good answer and you fucking delivered. Well done. I like that. I like that a lot. I know that really resonates with me, is you can't enjoy
You've got to have both, right?
Light without dark, dark without light,
Totally,
and so
right? Happiness is not a point, it's a spectrum. Like it's
yeah, indeed, man, indeed. Hey, thanks so much for coming on, mate. I'll let you back to it. We'll finish our whiskey off pod, and have a great day.
Thanks, mate. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, Matthew is clearly living out the fantasy of lots of people that I know that have been talking about building this type of product in a services company. I know heaps of people who have mentioned this to me before in the past. And so to see Projectworks doing so well, I'm really, really pleased. It's interesting that the timing of right now with Xero shutting down Workflow Max, and the opportunity this has created for other companies like Matthew's. And so we look forward to seeing lots of ecosystem joy and love come out of this terrible time. And so, as I sort of said to Matthew on the podcast, I think wherever there's dark, there's always light that comes. And so I'm really excited to look back on the last couple of years and see the next generation of startups getting revenue, getting opportunities. And I hope people follow the same experience that Matthew shared on the podcast by networking with really interesting people and learning and taking opportunities when you get them. Thanks so much for everyone that's listening or watching. If you're watching right now, you'll see me doing the exact thing that I told everyone not to do on the podcast, which is wearing green in front of a green background here. So enjoy that little moment. And please jump on and subscribe and help us to keep building this podcast platform. Until next time, see you later.
This podcast is produced by John Otaka from Empire Films.